You can get
Awesome.
started with it.
Okay. Okay, so I'll quickly get started. So this presentation or this webinar is basically about making better decisions. Now, there are two types of decisions which I will be addressing in this webinar. One is career choices and other is few important life choices. There are other types of decisions which I will not get into. Also, one quick disclaimer, whatever views I am presenting here are my own views and these are things which have helped me in my career till now and in my life till now. These do not represent my employer's view, which is LinkedIn. So just take them with that level of importance and use your own intelligence in what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. Uh, am I audible to everybody, all the presenters and everyone else?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes,
Awesome.
sir.
Awesome. So I'll just introduce myself. I from education, I have a bachelor's in computer science. As per the work experience, I have worked for around last 7 years professionally. I had a small startup when I was in college back then, but I am not counting that in my work experience. And I have worked in four industries. I'll take you through them, what they have been and what I've learned from them. And I've played around three different roles. So I initially started as a data scientist, then turned to a product analyst, and then became a product manager, the role which I'm playing now. In terms of subject interest, I am interested apart from product management into other topics as well. So I do keep reading about them. If any one of you is interested, we can chat further on that after the webinar. So my interests are usually around the workings of human mind, how economy works, mathematics, data science, product management, history, and philosophy. So if any one of you wants to connect and discuss this further, feel free to. You can also connect to me on LinkedIn. I'll share this presentation with all the presenters and they can share it with you guys so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So what is the agenda for this webinar? I'll be talking about three things. First, I'll tell you the reason why am I doing this. Second is career choices and what are some of the tips and some of the principles which have helped me, and about the life choices. What are some of the principles which have helped me make better ones. So why this talk? So biggest reason why I'm doing this talk is because one Manish Rath from your college reached out to me and he wanted me to give some talk on any of the topic which interests me. So the topic which interested me, looking at a third year student, was something like this. If I have to talk to my younger self, and if I have 1 hour, what will I tell my younger self? What are the most important things which he should be aware of, and which will help him in next 10 years. So those are the things which I have compiled here, which I felt would have made most sense for me, and would have made most sense of the 1 hour which I could have got with him. So take it that way. Now I'll begin with career choices and what do I think about them. So you have a big career in front of you. Like most of you will be spending 20 to 30 years working. Now you will be deciding on what role do you want to play. Somebody would want to become a software engineer, somebody would want to become maybe a data scientist, AI engineer, or I'm just talking about the roles in tech domain. There could be other roles in other industries. So I'm basing my talk only on the tech domain, which I have experience on. So I'm not talking about other domains right now. So how do you make choices in the tech domain? So typically what I've seen is people do choose their role and then try to become more and more specialized into that role. One thing which they clearly don't think a bit more on is around the company which they are being a part of. They do think typically about the company, but more they do not think more about the industry in which the company belongs to. So how economy works is humans have needs, businesses have needs, and uh, based on those economic needs, companies are formed to satisfy those needs. Let's say you are part of an industry whose need is declining. Let's say you're part of camera industry where the digital cameras are now a dying industry and smartphones are a booming industry. So no matter how good the company is in that industry, and no matter how good your role is, if that industry is going down, your career may also be going down with that. So I'm trying to address that as the first topic. So the idea here is that you should first choose the industry in which you want to be, analyze various industries, and then choose an industry, then analyze various companies and then choose a company, and finally when you have made those two choices, then choose a role which you want to play, because the first two are very important for your economic success and for your career success. So I'll deal with the first topic, which is industry. What are the types of industry which are available to choose from? So there, I can summarize them into three: growth stage, stagnant, and downturn. Now this is not very evident at times. This needs to be well researched, and you guys have time and you guys have Google. So do your own research to understand what industries are booming and what industries are in a stagnant state and what industries are in a downturn. Typically, you would want to be a part of the growth stage. The stagnant ones are called as the safe bets, where those industries will always give you jobs and may be safe jobs in the short run. But once in the downturn, will have their own risks, and your career may not grow and the way you want to. I'll give you some details about the industries which I have been. When I started my career, I was a part of analytics industry, and I was part of a services company. It's called Mu Sigma. Post that, I was part of e-commerce, where I worked at Flipkart. Then I went to an ad tech company. I'm not going into details of what this industry is. You can Google these terms and get to know more about it. But I'll give you a brief understanding of what worked for me, what didn't work for me. Then I was a part of ad tech industry, and then now currently I'm part of social media industry. Now I wouldn't recommend that you keep switching industries, because various types of things work for various types of people. For few folks, it could be that being part of one industry for a long time means more success in their careers, but for others it may mean that being part of uh, the tech industry or being part of multiple industries gives them that edge. So you'll need to decide your own path based on your skills and based on your interests. But this was the path I took. Okay. Next one is company. Now, how do you choose a company? So you can divide them into multiple aspects, but for the sake of simplicity, I have divided them into these five methods. So the first method is, or basically three methods. The first method says you divide them into the age of the startup and the age, funding, revenue, profit of that company. So there are three types by the age. One is the initial stage, next is a mid-age startup, which is like 5 to 10 years old, and the third one are the MNCs, which are like pretty old, more than 10 years, have decent valuations, have billions of dollars of revenues, and have decent enough profits. So what you can think of is that a company in various stages gives you options to grow. Which ones you use depends on how you want to grow at that point of time. So when I started my career with mid-age startups, which were like between 5 to 10 years old, and they had good enough room to grow. But I did not choose initial stage startups because I did not want to take the risk very on early in my career. But if you have the financial backing, and if you are not looking for job security very early on in your career, then initial stage startups teach you a lot, and that depends on who the founder is, what the team is about, what industry it is in, but they teach you a lot. And I'll delve deeper into how do they teach you a lot uh, in further slides. And uh, MNCs usually teach you a very different kind of work culture, where you understand what structure is, what kind of things make sense, how to do things at a scalable way. But startups do teach you how to make things work. They may be scalable, they may not be scalable, but how to make things work and how to build them from scratch. So there's a difference. You can maybe Google it further and you can research more about it. But the idea of this webinar is to make you aware that you have these choices, and you get curious about them and then make more informed choices. The other categorization is B2B versus B2C companies. The difference is B2B is basically a business providing products and services to another business, whereas in B2C, a business provides product and services to the other, to directly to the customers. So to give you an example, Google would be a B2C company here, where they are providing a search functionality to billions of users, whereas Microsoft, when they are building their operating system, they are basically working with hardware manufacturers and getting and striking a pricing deal, and then getting their products out. Now, B2B companies are typically more sophisticated and make more long-term bets and have a sustained revenues, while B2C companies have their own have do not have they have their own advantages. Basically, they have so many customers that their businesses do not get hampered with small changes in the ecosystem, whereas in B2B it does. So do your own research. What kind of companies are there, and what do you want to be a part of? And the next kind of categorization is around services versus product. So, so as you would have heard that like your global GDP is basically a combination of all the products and services which are produced in your country. So a basic difference between services and product companies is services companies do provide services to other businesses 90% of the cases. In some cases, they do provide to end consumers, while product companies do provide products to the end customers 90% of the cases. In Now there are fundamental differences. I would urge you to understand those differences. What makes sense, what does not make sense, what do you want to be a part of. So you should be aware of these terminologies, and that is why I kept a slide on this. Next one is role. This is the third thing which you should choose properly. Now, I'll give you a quick sense of what kind of roles are there. I'll not get deeper into it. I'll just make you aware that these are the terms which are there, which are out there, and you can maybe research it on your own what makes sense to you. So, basic function of a product company is to build something and then sell it. So there are two types of, or basically three types of major roles: builders, sellers, and roles which support these two. Now, in tech and product and data science, basically they constitute builders. They build products. Sales and business basically sell these products, and support functions support both of them or all three of them in whatever requirements from a business perspective they have. So that is how typically most of 80 to 90% of product companies are structured. So I've put forward all the designations, kind of roles which are existing out there. You can do your own research, get into the depth of it, what makes sense for you. And this is not exhaustive. You may come across a lot more titles and lot more job requirements out there. I've just tried to give an abstract view of what the industry looks like and what it has to offer you. I have played three roles in my four companies. I initially started my career as a data scientist because I was interested in data from the beginning, and that was the industry which I saw was booming when I passed out of my college, because it was new, it was growing, and I was a part of mid-stage growth company, Music at that point of time. I learned a lot there, and that was one of the most learning phases of my life. In fact, I don't think I learned that much in 4 years of college, which I did there in a year or year and a half. And then I became a product analyst in Flipkart, where I worked with product managers to help them make better decisions about their products. And then I became a product manager in InMobi, and now I'm here at LinkedIn. So what are the kind of skills that you can prepare yourself with when you're in college? So I've divided them into two types because that's the most famous differentiation, which is technical and non-technical. So in technical, obviously computer programming is the most important type, and programming, it's not just a skill, it's actually an art. And if you learn it well and if you do it well, your value to the industry is very high. So that's one of the most essential skills, whether you are part of, whether you are going to become a programmer or you're not going to become a programmer. But please do learn computer programming. learn how to code. That's like the basic essential skill of 21st century. If you don't know it, you'll have to face challenges in anywhere you are in tech industry. And if you know it, you'll always have an edge over people who don't. Next skill is around data science and analytics. That is also more and more becoming a very essential skills, because that is becoming a part of all decision making processes in every business out there. So if you have those skills, you will always have an edge. Third one is artificial intelligence. This I wouldn't say is like a must, but if you're interested, please do explore, because this is one of the futuristic technologies which many companies are betting very heavily on. On the non-technical side, I would say these are non-negotiable on the non-technical side. If you are not very good with communication, or at least better than the average, then you will face a lot of challenges. So communication in both written and verbal formats, people management and leadership. Now this you cannot learn right now in college, but try to be curious about it. Read books around it, what it is, how it is. Unless and until you don't practice it, you cannot learn. But there are few activities which you can do to learn it. It could be organizing something like this webinar, or doing something in college where you have a lot of people and you have to manage people and you have to get things done. Try and learn that. Companies do look for these things in people, whether they do have, can they get things done or not? Can they have lead a team and get a project to the finish? So those are the skills you should be mindful of. Last one is decision making. Uh, this is also something, or this is actually a very essential part of what a business is. Basically, a CEO, VP, or anybody at the top executive leadership have to do this day in, day out. You're not expected when you get out of the college to be very good at decision making, but try and acknowledge the fact that you're not good at it and try and make yourself better at it. Okay, so I'll address one more important question which usually we have when we are in college, which is around entrepreneurship. So should I do it? Should I not do it? When should I do it? If there is a risk involved, how can I prepare for it? So I'll just give you my quick understanding of how I've observed entrepreneurs and my small experience of entrepreneurship. The conclusion which I reached at was that a good reason to do it is usually addressing a market gap. Unless and until you do not see that this thing is required, don't do it. Unless and until you cannot prove it with data, prove it with people, and prove it with a minimum viable product, don't do it. But if you can, I would encourage you to do it. And the next one is around timing. When should you do it? Now, best times I suggest would be either during college or after a few years of experience, because just after college are usually your golden periods. There have been success stories where people have started just after college, uh, but those are rare cases. The average cases which I have seen are usually the people who spend 3 to 4 years or 5 to 6 years in the industry and then go ahead with it. So that's the best time period in my observation. You can make your observation and you can take your decisions accordingly. um, and the last one is, how can you prepare for the risks involved? So make a plan. How will you, if in case you do not earn much from it and you are supposed to be employed, then how will you go through your monthly expenses? If you have any education loans or any other loans, how will you go through it? Now, in case of career break, uh, I would suggest that career breaks are usually now encouraged, because if you are an entrepreneur and you have built something, whether it has failed also, you will be respected in the industry. So that is the trend more and more I am seeing, that failed entrepreneurs make very good employees because they take ownership and they take the entrepreneurial mindset which is required for getting things done. There is a term called intrapreneur, which is defined for people who work within the company and behave like an entrepreneur, and get things done faster, better, smarter. So explore that. That's something worth knowing. Salary. Now, this is usually one of the most important topics of discussion when we are in fourth year, that who got placed at what salary. it's not completely bad that we do that, but and overdoing that makes makes people acknowledge that money is the only indicator of progress. So don't do that. What I would suggest is try and get into something, in a role in a company, in an industry which you really want to be in, irrespective, or provided that it has basic amount of money which you need. But don't mindlessly run behind money, because that's not a very good long term strategy. In 3 to 4 years time you may lose the will to work. In 5 years time you may want to maybe do something which is completely different from what you're doing. So life is long. Think long term, and don't just optimize for salary. It is important, but not the only factor which decides your happiness in your career going forward. I'll just go through few of the factors which affect your salary. One factor, or there are three factors which I can think of. First one is around industry and company growth. If they are growing, there are higher chances that your salary will also grow. Demand versus supply in the role. So if you have some niche skills, it could be like an artificial intelligence engineer, which is rare in the market. Not many people know about that skill. Then there is a gap between demand and supply, and hence you'll be paid more. Also, if you have a unique combination of skills, let's say you are an AI engineer who also knows how to code, and who also has very good communication skills and leadership skills, then a combination of those skills make you more valuable than just one skill. So I would want to emphasize that explore your uniqueness, because if you do not explore your own uniqueness, you will become like everybody else in the job market. If everybody is a software engineer, you're also a software engineer, then that does not create your differentiation. But if you are a software engineer who is a very good writer, who writes blog posts, who writes very good, who gives very good presentations, he will have higher chances of being more valued in the job market. Yeah, so before I begin the next section, I would want to pause here, and I would want to take some of the questions. So presenters, if there is something important, please highlight that. I'd like to answer.
Yes, sir. There are a few questions, sir. You can go to the published section. We have pushed that over there, push them over there.
Okay. Okay. So I am going to published. Okay. So one of the question is, do you think the analytics industry will keep booming if we consider a 5 to 10 year timeline? Okay. Um, this is my take, and I may be wrong. It is that analytics has multiple aspects to it. One aspect is analytics services. Now, analytics services, I can see there are a lot of companies offering that, and there will be a saturation after some point of time. So where one company provides analytics services to other company, because there is a lot of talent being hired on that front. What will continue to boom would be the next steps from the analytics, uh, because it's always a matter of demand and supply. Because if today there is a lot of demand, and lot of people do opt for this career, then after a point of time the supply will become higher than the demand, and then the growth from a job point of view will be stagnant. So if you want to think of next 5 to 10 years, I would suggest think of other technologies apart from analytics as well. Prepare yourself with those skills, but hedge yourself with more skills and more types of skills as well. That would be my answer to that. Next question is, do you think the machine learning and AI will be a part of major growth or development in the analytical industries? Yes, I think so. Because next phase of growth may be coming from AI. That's what most of the leaders across the business and governments are believing on. So yes. Is blockchain an industry that might have potential in the future? If so, how can I acquire such a skill? Okay, so two parts to the question. Blockchain as an industry depends on adoption. It's very new, very nascent. So to comment on what will happen in next 5 to 10 years in this industry would be tough. Though there are some signs of progress, but nothing very concrete or very specific. We haven't seen any new unicorn coming from the blockchain industry. By unicorn, I mean a $1 billion startup or any new idea. So how can you acquire this skill? What I would suggest is acquire the skill based on your interest also, because if you are aware of blockchain and if you are also a developer, then you will have more chances and more opportunities in the industry as compared to only a developer. So if you have interest, do acquire that skill. Acquiring that skill can be done in multiple ways. One, read a book about it. Second, take a online course about it. Third, talk to people and network with people who are working in this industry over LinkedIn or over any other online or offline channel where you can do that. So those are three ways. Okay. Do you think non-technical jobs in software industries have growth as much as technical one? Um, I would say not as much as technical one, because there will always be demand for more software engineers as compared to product managers or as compared to any other role. So I think technical jobs would always or would to a great extent be more than the non-technical jobs. Okay, next one is can you give us some key points to get prepared while going for a job interview? So there are a few good books which I will be recommending later, which you can use. Otherwise, there's Google. You can go through a lot of resources which are online resources for that. With current global, next question is, with current global economic slowdown, do you think it's feasible to join a fresh or mid-stage startup? That depends on their funding. If they are very well funded for next 2 to 3 years, then it's fine. But if they are not funded and they are looking for funding, then it would be tough because funding is going down in this scenario. And by funding, I mean venture capital who fund startups. What is the scope of a web developer in an e-commerce MNC? There is a requirement of web developers, but I wouldn't say you should stick to that one skill, because the industry which we are in, skills do change very fast, technologies do change very fast. So don't stick to one skill. Try and follow more of your interests. Next one is cybersecurity status in the industry. This is interesting. So cybersecurity, I think, will grow a lot in coming years, because after this coronavirus break lockdowns and everything, lot of businesses have shifted online, and as a result of that, the risk for security is becoming more and more. So I think cybersecurity is something which will continue to be an important industry. Yep. So I've gone through all the questions. Let's start with the next section. If there are any other questions in the same section, please feel free to publish them. I'll answer them later then.
Yes, we'll publish them afterwards. You can after this session.
Yep.
After this section also.
Okay. Yep. So can you see my screen now? Is my screen visible?
No, sir, it's not yet visible.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay. Okay. So I'll move to the next section, which is life choices. This section is more philosophical and more around the personal conduct of how you want to conduct yourself around to make a better career. Now, what I think, or what my belief is, that your career choices are basically a subset of your life choices. So if I haven't seen people who make very good career choices and very bad life choices. So usually if you make good life choices, that leads you to good career choices also. And becoming a well-rounded individual and a well-rounded human being is, I think, a lot more important than just being successful in your career. So that's why I also wanted to cover this. So I'll cover three aspects in life choices. One is external world, which is how do we understand the world. Second would be around how do we understand the internal world, how do we understand ourselves better, and third one will be around um, how to attain a better mind, and how to be more focused. So how to understand the external world. Now there are three things in my mind which have helped me learn the most. First is books. Now, why I say books? Because they are the easiest, and they are very low in cost. Like you can go out and party, it will, and you can spend 200 to 300 rupees in any small party, and you can buy a book for 100, 200 rupees, or even an online book, for that matter, provided you read it. And that will be one of the best investments you will be making in yourself. So I would urge you to use your libraries, use all forms of books. Don't restrict yourself to the books which are available at your disposal. Try and know who are the best authors in the world. Just like movies, some directors make lousy movies and some director makes the best ones. Don't judge the reading and the book world by few authors which you don't like. So there are authors out there who write some tremendously good and insanely good books. So explore them further and develop a taste in books. That's something which I have read more, or which I have learned most of what I know from. Next thing which I have learned from is people. So it's a very famous quote that you are the average of five people you spend most of your time with, and be wary of that. Who are those five people, or who are those 10, 15 people who do you spend your time with a lot more? So do you learn a lot more from them? Are they successful in what they're doing? Are they effective? It could be online, people who you meet online, who you follow online. So try and learn from people. But at the same time, I would also give a caveat that you should listen to everyone, but do not trust anyone. Use your own logic, use your own critical thinking on what the person is saying, what that idea is. If somebody is successful and is a billionaire, or if somebody is successful and an actor, that does not mean that he will be giving the best advices in all other fields as well. So use your own knowledge, use your own common sense to take those advices. This is true for even the advices which I am giving you. So do not take it the way I am giving it. Use your own common sense, use your own knowledge and intellect to filter that out. Next one is goals. So an important thing which I wanted to call out here was, even though books is important, people are also important. But unless and until you don't do things actually, you will not be able to learn it. So I've just tried to give a incremental order that doing is greater than reading, is greater than talking. So even though you learn from all three, but unless and until you do it, you'll not learn it the way you should. So I would urge you to create multiple experiences. Now, this is where I would also want to talk about the startup experience which I had in my college. Even though it was not a very successful startup, I didn't make a unicorn out of it. But me and my friend, when we did it in our college time, I found that this was very this was a very learning experience. So I built the product myself. I sold it myself. I did the accounting. I did the other pieces of it. So I understood how a company works. So unless and until you don't do things, you don't build things, you don't sell things, you don't run businesses, or you don't run projects on your own, or products or ideas on your own, you will never be able to completely understand what it is. So it is one thing to read about it and one thing to do it. So at the same time, I'm not denying that books don't teach. Books are invariably the best sources to learn from, but that is what they are. You can learn from them, you cannot do it. So unless until you do it, you will not learn it. Next one is around understanding the internal world. So why is this important? The external world which you want to be successful in is heavily influenced by how you feel inside. and how your internal world is. There's a good quote which is here in the image. It says that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. To change your circumstances, you must start by changing your internal beliefs, attitudes, and emotions, which I firmly believe in. That's a very important and important topic. So how can you do it? So I'm just giving few tips which have helped me. One is meditation. How to do it? I have given some resources in the appendix section. You can go through that. So meditation has helped me. I don't do it a lot. I probably do it like 10 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week, but that helps a lot. That helps you calm yourself down, understand what you're thinking, why you're thinking, what you should be thinking. The other thing is exercise. So usually people associate exercise with weight management or becoming better, having a healthier body or getting six pack abs. Those are reasons, but that is not why you should exercise. You should exercise because it generates a much positive feeling when you do it, and it makes your mind get more clear. There is a saying that a healthy mind it relies or lies within a healthy body. So that's true, and you should exercise, and you should one of the important things why you should also exercise is because life is long, and you will eventually get sad at some point of time. So getting that energy into the life comes from your body and your mind. So that is why meditation and exercise are very important there. Third thing which I wanted to also cover was around food and thoughts. So we usually tend to listen to a lot of activity tend to do a lot of activities during our day. We can be live on 5 or 6 social media channels. We can go through news channels. We read random crap on newspapers. We do talk about random things, talk about people. Those things actually affect you. We usually think that only food poisoning is the only form of poisoning, but there's something also called as thought poisoning. So be watchful of what is entering your mind, what are the thoughts which are entering your mind, and what and at the same time what you're eating. So both are very important. We tend to not value them a lot. Uh, we do not tend to consciously monitor what is going into our body, but we do not consciously monitor what is going into our mind. So that is also a very important thing. I would urge you to explore that further, and I hope that helps you. Third thing which I wanted to talk about was how to have a beautiful mind, or how to have a focused mind, how to have a mind which helps you rather than fighting with you. So this also I have decided into 3 steps, or I have achieved, or I am trying to achieve it in 3 steps. One is try and get a purpose. How to do it, I've given some steps here. Acknowledge that you need one. Most of the people do not even know that they need one, which is one of the biggest problems in life. Uh, because unless you don't have a purpose, a clear goal where you want to be, what you want to achieve by before you are dead, you would be drifting around with winds. Like if some people say that this field has a lot more scope and this field makes more sense, you may drift towards that field and you may take that role for salary, for other reasons, but you will not have clarity of purpose on why you're doing it. So I would urge you to have that clarity. What do you want to achieve before you're dead? Is it survival? Get clarity. If it is just that, then at least you're clear that you just want to survive. Or if it is something else, get that clarity. Next point on how to achieve a more calmer mind is around gratitude. So be grateful for what you have. If you are in an engineering college, that means somebody has paid your fees, either a bank or your parents. Then be grateful for that. There are billions of people around the globe who don't get food twice a day. So be grateful about that, what you have, and say thanks to those people who have done it for you. And understand and empathize with the misery of others. If you see somebody who is not in school, who is not doing well in life, empathize with them. It is just a matter of lottery, or you're extremely lucky that you have it and they don't. So empathize with others, and give out whenever you can to someone in need. These are not just things which are good to do. These are also the things which make you feel more calm and more peaceful in your own lives. So with that, I would go ahead in the Q&A section. If there are any other questions, I would love to answer them. Are there any other questions which we need to get into?
Yes, so there are a ton of new ones. You can find them in the published section as well. We have deleted the previously answered questions, so you can find them right from the top.
Okay, got it. The question is from Chiranjit. It is around how can I integrate my career with both electronics industry and data analytics industry? Interesting. I don't have an answer right now, but this is an interesting question. I think you should explore this further. There would be some way, definitely. There should be some way. Next question is research-oriented jobs in the field of cognitive sciences or cognitive computing. Okay, you are asking me which field to choose. Okay, that would be tough to answer. I would suggest that take two things into consideration. Where are your skills and where are your interests, and what that subject is, and then make the choice. Because one mistake which we do in our own career planning is usually we take advice from others and follow it blindly, which is a recipe for disaster. Because unless and until you are 100% sure, uh, it would be tough. Okay. Okay. Next one is around what new and most demanded things are coming in near future, which will be worth requiring by industries, which are worth learning. So I think I covered few of them. Artificial intelligence is one of them. Cloud computing is also one of them. That is already here. Then you have other applications and research going on in the field of self-driving cars, in the field of AI automations, customer support automations. So a lot of automations, anything which can make the job easier, cheaper. Basically, how economy moves is you first have an invention. You 200 years back or 100 years back, there was a car that ran on diesel and that ran for 5 kilometers. Then you had another car that ran on petrol that ran for let's say 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers. Sooner it became cheaper to buy a car and it became more efficient fuel wise. So the cost goes down, the efficiency goes up. So those are two things, and innovation. So these are three things in which economy moves. Either reducing the cost of what is already being done, or increasing the efficiency of what is already being done, or building something completely new altogether. So you can research which fields are actually attaining that. I see AI, cloud computing to be in those directions. Next one is, where do you see full stack engineering and DevOps in next 5 to 10 years? How is it changing over time? That would be tough to answer. I am not an engineer, and by the virtue of the job which I'm doing, so that would be tough to answer. I would defer that question to somebody who is already in engineering. Probably reach out to them over LinkedIn and get an answer on that. Is there a scope in India for working in augmented reality software or in image processing computer vision? Can you give me some key inputs? Not that I'm aware of. There could be some work. I see few robotic startups which are being started in Bangalore. I'm not sure how much they are hiring. So I can tell you how to know it. Go to LinkedIn or go to any job search site and start searching about the jobs in that field, or go to Google, search that. If you find there are jobs coming, then you have your answer. And if not, then you have your answer again. Do you think more and more companies will switch to LinkedIn while recruiting, and will having an all-star profile help with better jobs? Yes, definitely. I wouldn't say more and more companies will switch to LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is definitely number one or number two solution for hiring managers. So an all-star profile will definitely help. Please do that. how would I know that something is the right career choice for me, or whether I will be liking it in future or not? It really gets confusing with so many things you can do right now. So how do I choose which one would be best for me? That's a very, very good question. So um, you will not know that early on in your career, to be honest. You're not expected to also. What you should do is you should keep exploring it. Just make yourself realize that you don't know it. And if you have that realization, then I think you will be able to find it. So the best of the jobs are something like which match your skills, which match your interests, and there is an economic need for it. Like there are companies and people who need it. So so I would suggest start with what are the things which are required in the world. There's a huge list of it, but try to filter that with your skills and interests, and then you have a list of maybe 5-10 things. Try a couple of them, some of them, read more about them, talk to people more about those things. Sooner or later it will require some finding, because it will require some searching, like everything else in life. Uh, this is tough but not impossible. Like keep searching is what I would suggest, is the final is the final way of doing it. How to search is how to optimize your search. I've given you the tools. I've shared the tools like the books, people, and goals. Let's say you feel you want to do something in augmented reality. Build something. Take a small robotics class, get or get those Google classes, or build those Google classes yourself, and code it out, and try to do a side project, and then see what you feel like. Does it make you happy? Is it something which is required? Is it something which you can do? And if not, then you have your answer. So that's how I would do it. Next question is, I've heard that most companies look for PhDs or MTech grads for AI ML jobs. How to go there as a fresher? Hmm. So as a fresher, if you're a software development engineer and you apply for a ML engineer kind of a position, you should be accepted, provided that you have done some parallel projects and your own courses in that field which show that you are interested, and you have successfully done that. So if you're a software engineer with side projects on AI and ML, there's a good chance that you'll be hired in such role with side projects and you have taken some courses as well. What will be the what will be one of the best technology in upcoming years which gives career a boom? Is it data science or AI? See, it would be tough to say which ones will give your career a boom. And again, I would specifically like to urge you that do not just think about optimizing on one aspect of your career, which is the money you make. Try and optimize on multiple aspects: the money you make, the joy you get from your work, and what are your skill sets. Because if you do even get into the career and it booms also, then also there is a chance that you may not be happy with your life, with your career. So with that said, there is a decent chance that if you are in AI field, it will grow, but don't bet on only one skill. Try to maintain multiple skills is what I would like to say. Is data science or AI a field where a fresher can go in? What do most companies ask for? More experience or educational qualifications? So early in the career, as a fresher, it would be educational qualifications. But if you have done a lot of side projects, you have done internships, side projects, side hustles, you've built things on your own, which people can actually see, then you have a good chance. So take side classes or online courses or build things on your own. Or do most companies ask for more experience? Yeah. So as a fresher, that's the only way you can get in. I want to start my own business. What path should I follow after my BTech? I would suggest first spend some time understand in the industry, understand what kind of things are being done, what works, what doesn't work, and then maybe create a list of market opportunities which you see that nobody is doing and some people need it. Some people really need it. Like there should be at least 100 people who do need it. So if you build it tomorrow, they'll buy it. If that kind of a need exists, then only do it. If not, then try avoid doing it. So I think we are done with most of the questions. Okay, there is another one. After MCA, pursuing MBA will be a right choice. I can't say that. I'm not a career consultant. I'm just somebody who wants to share their own knowledge of what they've attained. So I don't have knowledge of this. So I'm sorry. Okay, so I think we are done with most of the questions, and we can conclude it now.
Yes, sir. There are only these much questions, sir.
Okay. Okay. So thank you guys for coming. I hope this was useful.
Yes, it was very insightful. Thank you for coming, sir.
Yep.
Yes, thank you, sir. It was amazing having you with us.